You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. All right. Today we are talking about sex, money, and non-monogamy. So, wow, that's going to be quite the interesting line of topics there today. With me today is Paige Bond. Paige is a licensed marriage and family therapist down in Central Florida, and she is going to talk to me about these taboo topics. So, Paige, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I know, everybody can talk about relationships. That's not hard. We can talk about love, but when it comes to money, sex, even like pushing it at out of the social norms of monogamy, a lot of people, face gets hot and we start, getting our heart rate up about these topics.
Absolutely. We kind of stutter, stammer, look around and try to come up with something else to talk about. And for me, those are the topics that I have the most fun with, is the ones that nobody wants to talk about. So
me too.
Maybe it's because I like the reactions people get. I like that.
We like making
factor.
People uncomfortable. I love it.
So I want to start out though with non-monogamy, and
okay.
I would love for you to tell us what you mean by that.
Okay. So, there's so many different ways to do non-monogamy, right? When we think of monogamy in societal terms, we think, okay, you're with one person and sometimes it gets to the point of you don't even look at another person. God forbid you think about fantasizing about something else, which
I've been with those kind of people.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, how do you not think about someone else?
Right.
It's only natural and in our nature. So I think we need to get clear on what monogamy means to people, because sometimes, within the bounds of a relationship, monogamy can still mean, oh, I can flirt with someone, but, you always come home to me. You never cross the physical boundary line of, any type of inappropriate or sexual touch with someone else. Whereas maybe in some relationships, they consider that non-monogamous. So there's so many different types and ways to go about it. There was this really cool YouTube video I watched. I forgot who the speaker was, but she's an expert in non-monogamy. And she talked about how this one couple did, their kind of introduction to non-monogamy. It was they would go out to restaurants or bars and, they would flirt with the waitress and, have a good time. And that would be something they do together to kind of introduce them to, okay, this isn't so bad. This is actually a lot of fun. And maybe they take that fantasy, they leave that fantasy at the bar or restaurant, but they take it home and they have wild, wild sex, which is amazing.
I like those ideas. I am a huge flirt by nature. And yeah, I have no problems, flirting with somebody just to make their day, And you see someone who's having a bad day or something, and you kind of flirt with them just a little bit, and it just kind of boosts them a little.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to get crazy. It doesn't have to get overtly sexual or anything like that, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But then, there are those who are incredibly insecure with themselves,
right.
I think, who, if you even look at another person, will just go crazy. Oh gosh, what was it? I was on TikTok the other day, and somebody had said something about it. It posted a meme. Maybe it was on Instagram. I don't know, but posted a meme, and it was something about if he likes just one girl's picture, we're done, or something like that. And I was like, no. I said, no, not for me. I'm like, I don't even know what my man does on social media. I don't pay attention. I don't really care. Because I'm secure with myself and I'm secure with our relationship.
Right.
And somebody came back and said, well, no, it's a respect thing. Um, you know,
Yeah.
and I used to be that person.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, especially, female identifying people, we're kind of like groomed to be like that of like, oh, they should only be with me or look at me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really part of our nature. I mean, look at us as humans versus animals. There's many different partners in the animal kingdom that animals have. And it's very, very natural and welcoming. And
Right.
I think we're moving towards that as a society today, which is really great because we can explore so many different things and parts of ourselves that we maybe have been shamed for because society thinks that it's just not right. But it can be really beautiful for a lot of things where, maybe if it's just a sexual relationship all the way into I can love multiple people and build a life with multiple people. It's amazing.
It is. It is. As far as, I don't know, romantically, sexually being involved, I'm the kind of person where I don't share. Yeah. When it comes to the bedroom, it's just me and you.
Yeah.
But, crush on who you want, like people's pictures on Facebook, download your nudie picture. I don't care. That stuff doesn't bother me at all. And actually, it's funny because my late husband and I used to crush on some of the same actresses. I'm like, she's gorgeous. I would do her. We could bring her into the bedroom,
right.
joking around and stuff. But, just because they look at somebody or they're fantasizing about somebody, and usually when they fantasize, or at least for me, it's not even a real person.
Right.
Doesn't mean that they don't love you, that they want out, that they're thinking of cheating, or, it's just
exactly
being human.
I like to compare it like I had this client once who was really uncomfortable with their partner like watching porn and they felt insecure about themselves because of that. And so I kind of made this comparison of, okay, so do you like the house you live in? And they said, yeah. And I asked them to tell me all about the house that they love and what things they like in it. And then I said, okay, do you have a fantasy house that you want to live in? Do you want to live in like this big mansion or, be on a beautiful lake or something? You ever think about that? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, it's the same thing. Maybe it's not obtainable. And, maybe you can fantasize about all these things you could have, but that's not taking away from your love for this house that you have and that you're currently in. And so I try to, put it that way, at least for, thinking about porn, like, okay, we have sex with each other and, there's a whole thing I can do about the porn industry. A lot of it's very, unrealistic.
We'll have to do a whole nother show on that.
I know. but it's just like that though. So you can, be able to, be with your person if you are one partnered and still be able to enjoy the fantasy while not taking away that love from each other.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about polyamory and how, we can make multiple partners work. Because that's got to be tough.
It is. And I work with a lot of polyamorous clients and they struggle with the same things that any monogamous relationship struggles with. Sure. Honestly, they struggle with communication, sharing feelings, struggle with, wanting to be right all the time. They go through the same things that other relationships go through. The big thing making it work is each person needs to really work on themselves and have their own self-worth built up so that their self-worth is not dependent on their partner. Because that ain't going to fly very easily if we're depending on, trying to, let's say it builds their self-worth to get attention from their partner rather than having, security within themselves. Well, if their partner's off with, someone else for, let's say, for an overnight, you're going to have a really hard time. You're probably going to have a restless night's sleep thinking about, oh my gosh, what are they doing? They don't love me anymore, yada, yada, yada. Whereas if you were secure with yourself, you'd be flipping on Netflix and enjoying the night with a big, bag of popcorn and enjoying your alone time rather than being so anxious about, not having that attention from your partner.
Right. Be packing their bags. So I'm going to pack your bag for you. Go, go, go.
Yep. Vacation for both of us. Yay.
Bye. Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. There's a woman that I follow on Facebook. And I followed her for, many years, and I've just kind of watched her relationships ebb and flow, and I can't figure her out, but, it's almost like her little community is, very multiple people, and it just, they make it work somehow. They don't all live together, but, they partner up or they go visit each other, and they make it work. I would need a spreadsheet, but there's
a joke going around that's you must have a calendar kink if you enjoy polyamory.
Yeah,
because you have to be so focused on your calendar. Where am I going tonight, right? And it can work. I mean, and there's a lot of different forms, right? So polyamory can take on the form of, okay, do I have a nesting partner, which is where, you have someone that you live with, you build a life with, and, maybe you raise kids with, and all that, normal monogamous, stuff that
I've
you
actually
go through.
seen her mention, her nesting partner.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they play a big role in their life. And then you can have other partners. Can we cuss on this show? We can cuss?
Sure.
Okay. We can have fuck buddies. We can have orgies. We can have, just, I like to go on dates and be treated by other people. It can be something serious, or it can be something, not so serious. There's many different forms. There's also, you can think about it in a hierarchical form, where sometimes it's usually the nesting partner, the people who live at home, they can be considered, quote, a primary partner, whereas other people come secondary. Now there's ways to make that work. A lot of times for the other partners, we call them metamors. It's really hard for them to feel like really included in their life, and kind of makes them feel like second best. Unless that's something that they agree to and are okay with. So that could be kind of tricky sometimes if we go like the hierarchical sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest way to make anything like this work, any relationship period, is complete, open, honest communication and boundaries. You've got to have, it can't just be a free for all.
Yep.
You've got to have your boundaries in there.
Yeah. What I often see happen, like regrets, going down this path is, they'll start going down it, and then they'll realize, oh shit, my boundary was violated, and now it feels like I've been cheated on. And I'm like, okay, so now we have to do a lot of damage control because, one, you didn't speak up and use your voice to let your partner know, hey, that was really hard boundary for you and you really weren't comfortable with it. Because the most important thing about this is consensual non-monogamy. And so even though they might have given their verbal consent, hey, go out on that date with that person. I don't care if you sleep with her. And then, after that feeling like it was cheating, okay, so maybe we should have had some more talks and transparency about your comfort level with this.
Right.
So it can be really difficult, but yes, the key is open transparency. I've worked with quite a few different non-monogamous relationships where it turns out they're wanting to hide things to protect their partner. A lot of the times it's not, to be deceitful or anything. They're just thinking that, okay, if I tell them this, then they'll be really hurt. Well, if you don't tell them this, they'll be even more hurt.
Right.
So, pick the less of two evils. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Gosh, it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like too much of a headache for me to deal with.
There's a lot of different moving variables.
Oh yeah, I'll stick to my window
stages.
shopping.
Yeah. Yep. Window shopping is just fine for people, and that's okay. And even that opens the door to at least you not having judgment on others. A lot of times people are severely judged for wanting to be non-monogamous. And I think that's really sad because, I mean, we could pass a lot of judgment on people who want to be monogamous and want to, stay with the same person forever. I was watching a video earlier this week about the author from Unconscious Uncoupling, and she was talking about how, we don't always have the one and they're our partner forever. We can have multiple ones at different life stages in our life. And what if we could have all of the ones at this life stage in our life so they can fulfill these different needs? Maybe I can feel really connected and emotionally fulfilled by, a primary partner, for using that kind of hierarchy. But maybe this other partner gives me a sense of adventure and helps me feel youthful and reminds me of, a side of myself that I don't get to explore with my primary partner. It's amazing to be able to have all that.
Absolutely. Wow. This is fun. I talk about trauma so much on my other podcast that, for me to be able to talk about something like this, I'm just like, I'm having so much fun.
Why you do it?
Exactly. That's exactly why I started this podcast. So what are your thoughts on like emotional cheating? Is that really a thing?
I think it can be, but I think like emotional cheating is a bigger sign of saying like, hey, something's not being fulfilled in this relationship. It may not always necessarily be that they're wanting that with a different partner. A lot of times it's just happened to be, okay, one partner's busy at work. I don't feel like I'm being paid enough attention to, maybe my coworker is giving me a lot of attention or advice on this particular topic, and I'm feeling really emotionally connected with them. And so that can be a boundary, that crosses into emotional cheating. Sometimes that's okay. And people are really all right with having, really deep emotional connections, and then call it cheating if you cross the line into any type of physical, sexual thing. Right. So there's so many different ways, again, monogamy versus non-monogamy.
Absolutely. You think if you're having just a conversation, maybe it's a text conversation with somebody or a text relationship or whatever you want to call it, you hide that. If you're hiding that from your partner, would that be, more construed as maybe cheating or something because you're hiding? There's no communication about it. You're not open about it or anything like that.
Yep. If you're hiding something, there's a difference between being private about something and being secretive. This is how I explain it to my couples. And if you have something private, let's say you don't want to share, maybe you had a really traumatic experience in your childhood and you don't feel safe to share that with your partner. That's okay for you to keep that to yourself. That's all right. It's not required to keep the relationship, in a healthy state to share that information. But if you're hiding a secret that affects the relationship, which, yes, that does, when we're stepping into the bounds of, oh, I'm keeping this really fulfilling relationship from you and you have no idea about it, that's a significant impact.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I've been guilty of that in the past. Oh, excuse me. Gosh, this cough is driving me nuts, people.
Oh,
I've only had it since the beginning of November, but no, I've been guilty of it, in my past. And one of the things that I found, and I actually found by doing podcasts and talking with people, is that I have an addiction to that high you get when you first meet somebody.
New relationship energy.
I have that addiction. And so when my relationships would get rocky, there were signs that there was trouble. Instead of trying to work them out and make them work, I was looking for my next one and would often have the next one lined up before I left the first one. Once I learned that about myself, that made a huge difference in my relationships
and how you approach it
and how I approach things.
Since you were aware, you could be like, oh, I noticed this setting in again. Is that what was happening?
Yeah. It was like, okay, I'm getting bored. We're in a rut. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. And you just start talking to people, and so I'm able to actually see that about myself. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, because I never knew that love addiction really existed. Everybody knows about sex addiction, but never really heard about love addiction until I did this podcast episode, and I was just like, oh my God, you're describing me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's odd is that we have found that it's even higher in the neurodivergent community. So people who struggle with ADHD, always striving for that novelty. And it happens a lot. So there we have it. There's a lot of other untalked about symptoms about ADHD, depression, other disorders that we don't really recognize, but there's so many things that connect and make sense.
Interesting. While we're on the topic though of relationships and stuff, or since we're discussing relationships and everything, let's bring up the forbidden topic of money.
Okay.
Because I know that is one of the biggest reasons why couples break up or why we fight is money.
Yeah. I actually did a podcast with a couples financial coach, and he says that is one of the top reasons why people get divorced is they don't see eye to eye on money. There could be financial betrayal. So there's other types of infidelity. It doesn't just have to be sexual. We can have, I'm secretly racking up credit card debt in this relationship, and that's a huge betrayal, which could be definitely probable cause for, irreconcilable differences in a relationship.
Yep.
It's so interesting. I think we're so conditioned, and this happens a lot with, our relationship with money, how we grew up, how we were taught about money. Were you taught to save money, from a very young age, or were you taught, hey, let's enjoy these life experiences and, spend frivolously? And if we have those two people meet and fall in love, oopsies, we need to do a lot of talking about our spending habits.
Yes. Yes, I hear you there. Or, then there's those who were never taught about money at all. And they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and have no idea what they're doing. And that can cause a lot of problems. I think the other thing too is letting one person be the one that handles all the money, as opposed to, both people sitting down and paying bills, or, at least checking things out once a month, with the bank statements, or,
Right.
But if one person is handling all the money, that makes it much easier to buy things that, the other one isn't going to know about. And
if they're not checking statements or anything like that. Yeah. I always recommend, because this happens really often, where one partner is just like, I can't do it. I can't handle finances. No. They need to do it all for me. I'm like, okay, so they can do it all. And as long as they're okay with that responsibility. If not, we start negotiating about that. But if they are, then we talk about the importance of, okay, so how about we do that once a month check-in or the once a week check-in? You both review your spending habits, see if this is within the bounds of the agreement that you both agreed upon. So I have a lot of people who have kind of like a certain dollar amount rule, like, hey, you can spend whatever dollar amount as long as it's not over this. If it's a big purchase, say like $150, we should talk about it because that affects our finances since we have a life together. But to even think about having that conversations runs people running for the hills. Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why. Because I'm thinking over in a lot of my past relationships, I was the one that handled all the money, but like in the one I'm in now, and we just both kind of talk about it and do it. And, if one of us is going to make a purchase of, we don't even have a dollar amount. Usually it's just $40-$50, we're going to be like, hey, I'm going to buy this.
Right.
Just letting you know. And it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, okay. Or, or he'll be like, hey, I want to make this purchase because I know more off the top of my head where we are in the month with bills and stuff. And I can say, let's wait until your next paycheck. Like we just talked about this yesterday. We need to buy a new vacuum cleaner.
We just bought one too.
My dog ate the cord on my vacuum cleaner. He's like, well, do you want me to run up to Walmart and just get one? And I said, well, no, let's wait till your next paycheck because we've got these big bills coming up. It's the middle of the month. This is our heavy bill time. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, that works. So we'll just deal with dirty carpets in the bedroom until we get another vacuum. But, it's that simple.
It really is though. And that's what I recommend the most is just letting your partner know what's on your mind. This goes for other topics too. That's going to help them feel, one, more connected to you, two, more in the loop. So they don't have to ask and they don't have to worry about it. And they don't have to worry about asking about it either. If you're just volunteering this information freely. I mean, that's something that my partner and I do. We freely talk about money. We love that subject and talking about, okay, what is it like with this? We talk about investments. We talk about our differences in our pay and it's not something to be ashamed of. I think a lot of people, like the deterrent to having these conversations, there's a lot of money shame. Like, oh, I shouldn't talk about money, or, oh, I shouldn't be able to buy this thing for myself because maybe, quote, I don't deserve it. And so maybe my partner doesn't think I deserve this either, or what will they think of me if I'm interested in purchasing this? I think shame prevents us a lot.
Well, and, shame from our partners too. I make the majority of the money in this relationship. What are you doing spending it, or, things like that, money control. Yeah. Those who really want money control, that, yeah, absolutely. That would make it, I wouldn't want to go talk to somebody who's gonna be like, well, how much money have you brought into the relationship this month?
Yeah. Yeah. And so in couples therapy, we call that contempt. If we're thinking that way, if we're thinking less of our partner, like, oh, they're less than me just because I'm the breadwinner, that's contempt. And that's already, toxic for your relationship. So you need to start couples therapy if you're thinking about your partner that way. Shout out to that. So the big thing with that is you need to be able to have that level head and, one, be okay with either, being a breadwinner or not being a breadwinner, but also acknowledge just because maybe you're not contributing financially to the relationship, you're probably doing a lot more. So maybe you're pulling a lot of the emotional labor. Maybe you're pulling a lot of the division of labor and chores at home, the childcare labor, if you have kids. Like there's a lot more that contributes to a relationship than just money, So,
oh, yeah. And I've seen relationships where the controller just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I worked for 10 hours a day. What did you do? Well, let's see. Right. I kept your kids alive, For
the 10th year in a row.
The kids are not dead. There's food on the table, Yeah. So, well, Paige, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about this. I absolutely love being able to talk about these topics and just be open and really into them. So this has been awesome.
Cool. I've been having fun too. I love talking about this stuff.
And listeners, I will have all of Paige's contact information down in the show notes. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to her, just go to therealityofitall.com and pull up her episode and everything will be there for you. So Paige, thank you once again for coming on the show. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. And we'll talk to you next time. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.